This is the site induction for the build and strike for the papal visit to the Phoenix Park in Dublin. This induction has been prepared by the Project Supervisor Construction Phase, PSCS, and it is in accordance with the following legislation: the Safety, Health and Welfare at Work Act 2005, the Safety, Health and Welfare at Work General Application Regulations 2007 to 2016, and the Safety, Health and Welfare at Work Construction Regulations 2013. All contractors and site crew must complete the induction prior to starting any work on site. This induction has been made available online to prevent delays when starting on site. However, there will be the facility for inductions to be given in the Site Safety Office. Inductions will be held at 7:30 each morning for those that have not completed the online induction. All staff will be asked to sign a document confirming that they have completed the site induction process. This induction training is for your safety, for the safety of your co-workers, and the safety of others that could be affected by your actions. The construction site is located centrally in the Phoenix Park at the Papal Cross behind the US Embassy. However, due to the nature of the works that we're carrying out in Phoenix Park, all of the park can be considered a part of the site. Access to the site is via the Parkgate Street end of Chesterfield Avenue, and the staff car parking will be signposted. Please follow these signs and note that there will be no staff parking on the construction site. For vehicles that are delivering to the site, enter the park at the Parkgate Street end of Chesterfield Avenue. At the Phoenix Monument roundabout, turn left onto Acres Road, passing the US Embassy gates. The site compound is in the car park behind the Papal Cross on your right-hand side. All visitors and working staff must sign in and out of the site at the Site Safety Office, which will be located in the site compound. Personal protective equipment, PPE. The following is the minimum PPE that must be worn at all times when you are working on this site. You must wear a clean, high visibility jacket, protective steel toe-capped and webbed boots, not rigger boots, and gloves. All workers must also wear PPE that is appropriate for the work that they are carrying out. For example, for some work at height, a harness is required. Some works will require eye protection or ear defenders. Not all areas on the site require staff to wear hard hats. However, there will be designated areas. These will be signposted, and in these areas you must wear a hard hat. Respiratory protection may be required for some tasks. Your PPE should be in accordance with your company's risk assessment, and if you have any doubts as to what PPE you should be wearing, you should discuss this with your company safety manager. Failure to wear the correct PPE will result in the works that you're carrying out being stopped temporarily. Those who repeatedly fail to wear their PPE will be removed from the site. Site welfare. There will be a covered welfare area on the site. Toilets and hand wash facilities will be available. Please remember to bring sufficient drinking water to the site and to stay hydrated while working. Please wear clothing that is appropriate for the weather conditions. First aid will be present on site from the 1st of August. Works and types of hazards on the site. During the build and strike of this project, the following works could be expected: the erection of temporary fencing and other similar works requiring vehicle and trailer movement and manual handling. The installation of trackway and temporary roadways, which typically uses heavy lifting equipment and heavy vehicles. The erection of scaffolding and rigging and work at height. The use of cranes, lifting equipment, MEWPs, forklifts and teleporters. The use of heavy vehicles. The erection of marquees and other temporary structures. Electrical works, and the installation of sound and lighting equipment. Please be aware that the ground is uneven underfoot, and due to the recent weather, the surface could be compacted and very hard. For the safety of all working and visiting the site, the following rules will apply. There will be no access to the site without permission. Everyone wishing to access the site must sign in at the safety office located in the site compound. Similarly, you may not access the site without the basic personal protective equipment equipment, or PPE, as discussed in the previous slides. It is the responsibility of all contractors to supply their staff and crew and all subcontractors working for them with the correct PPE in accordance with their Work Associated Risk Assessment and Method Statement, or RAMS. Any delays and associated costs caused by the failure to provide the correct PPE will be the responsibility of the contractor concerned. SafePass. A current SafePass certificate will be required for all crew, workers, on-site vehicle drivers, delivery vehicle drivers who arrive on-site, and security. Project managers and some staff not involved in construction works do not require SafePass but must still sign in at the site safety office. If you have any doubt as to whether or not you require a SafePass to access the site, please inquire in the site safety office. Additionally, Construction Skills Certification Scheme, or CSCS, tickets are required for a range of tasks. These would include scaffolding, the erection of mobile scaffold towers, those involved as banksmen, that's slinging or signalling for lifting equipment, those positioning signage and lighting on roads, and those scanning for services. If you're unsure about whether or not the task that you are undertaking requires a ticket, please ask at the site safety office. Tickets or licenses are required for the following equipment: forklifts, teleporters, MEWPs, cherry pickers. Without the relevant ticket, you may not use these machines. All operators must submit their tickets to the safety office, where a copy will be taken and retained for our records. All tools and equipment must be in good working order and only used for their intended purpose. Any equipment and tools not in use should be safely and securely stored so that they can only be accessed by the correct personnel and that they don't pose any danger to other workers or members of the public. All electric tools must be PAT tested. All electric tools must be 110 volt. Please note that 240 volt tools are not permitted on this site. Rubbish and the build-up of waste. It is the responsibility of each contractor to remove their waste from site. We ask that all staff dispose of their waste on a continual basis as they're working, and please pay particular attention to hazardous materials such as banding and ensure that it's not left on the ground. You must ensure that all rubbish, wrap, timber and banding are disposed of in the site skip. Rules for those in charge of vehicles. As high visibility jackets are a part of the minimum PPE required on site, all drivers are required to wear their high visibility jackets at all times, even when driving their vehicles. The on-site driving speed for all vehicles is 20 km per hour. This includes trucks, cars, machinery, forklifts and buggies, etc. And you may be asked to slow down to a lower rate at times. Seatbelts must be worn by drivers and passengers in all vehicles at all times. You may not carry passengers in vehicles that do not have a passenger seat, and staff or crew may not stand up or sit on moving trailers. The use of mobile phones is not permitted while driving without a hands-free kit. Similarly, the use of a two-way radio is not permitted while driving. It is not a requirement of this site that your hazard lights are on at all times. Hazard lights are only to be used as required. Please take extra caution when driving in the Phoenix Park, as there are many people, including children, who use this park on a daily basis. Emergency or major incident on site. An emergency or a major incident could include structural collapse, a fire, or a medical incident. All workers will have access to the site safety telephone number, which will be available on site at all times. This number should be recorded in your telephone. In the case of an incident, the site safety office should be contacted. In the case of a serious injury or a fire, the emergency services can be contacted by calling either 999 or 112. In the case of a major incident, the scene should be preserved for the safety officer to inspect. All incidents and near misses must be reported to the site safety office. Fire extinguishers. There are 5 types of fire extinguisher. The first is a water fire extinguisher. The writing on a water fire extinguisher is white writing on a red band. It can be used for wood, paper and textiles. Do not use water on flammable liquids, flammable gases, cooking oils and fats, and electrical equipment. Foam. Foam fire extinguishers are identified by a cream band with black writing. Foam fire extinguishers can be used on wood, paper and textile, and on some flammable liquids. However, foam should not be used on flammable gases, cooking oils and fats, and on electrical equipment. Powder. Powder fire extinguishers are identified with a blue band with white writing. These can be used on wood, paper and textiles, flammable liquids, flammable gases, and electrical equipment. Powder should not be used on cooking oils and fats. CO2. CO2 extinguishers are identified with a black band and white writing. They should be used for flammable liquids and electrical equipment. CO2 should not be used on wood, paper and textiles, flammable gases, cooking oils and fats. Wet chemical. Wet chemical is identified by a yellow band with black writing. Wet chemical should be used on wood, paper and textiles, cooking oils and fats. Wet chemical should not be used on flammable liquids, flammable gases or electrical equipment. Emergency exits. The emergency exits from the site will all be clearly marked. These must be kept clear of all obstructions. Obstructions would typically include stillages, waste materials, materials for use on the site, and parked vehicles. There will be fire extinguisher points located within the venue. In the case of a fire, raise the alarm, alert a supervisor or contact the site safety officer, evacuate the area. In the case of a serious fire, contact the fire brigade. Only fight a fire if it is safe to do so. And in the case of a site evacuation, assemble at the assembly point. As the recent weather has been so dry, there's an elevated risk of fire on the site. In particular, you must ensure that you dispose of cigarette butts in an appropriate manner. Site signage. All site signage is colour-coded. The codes are as follows. Red is for prohibition. You must not. Blue is mandatory. You must. Green is for safe access. And yellow is a hazard warning. Working at height. All work at height must be risk assessed, and where this risk assessment requires fall arrest and harnesses, the work must be carried out in accordance with the contractor's risk assessment. This should include emergency rescue procedures. Where possible, secure platforms should be used, including MEWPs and cherry pickers. When working at height, consider the weather conditions and address the risk from overhead hazards. Consider the equipment that you're using and use the safest access equipment for the job, not the most convenient. Scaffolding must be erected and dismantled by trained operatives, and all scaffold towers must be tagged by the operative who built it. Ladders. All ladders must have an inspection tag. Ladders should only be used where the work is of short duration, not more than 30 minutes, where there is a low risk to the user of the ladder, for light work, and for work that does not involve carrying heavy or awkward tools or equipment. When using ladders, the user should maintain a minimum of 3 points of contact at all times. Ladders should be located on firm level base. You should always keep your knees below the top tread when working on a step ladder, and you should never straddle step ladders. All ladder use must comply with the HSA Using Ladders Safely information sheet. Copies of this sheet will be available in the Site Safety Office. Manual handling. Do not attempt to carry anything that is too big or too heavy. All contractors should ensure that their staff have completed a manual handling course in the last 3 years. Noise levels. On a construction site, noise is likely to reach high levels. All contractors must supply their crew with appropriate, properly fitted hearing protection. First aid. The contact details of the on-site first aid provider will be available at the site safety office each day. In the event of an incident, only render first aid if you are qualified to do so. Seek assistance from the site first aider using either your telephone or the site two-way radio system. Stay with the injured party and report the accident to a supervisor and to the site safety office. Weil's disease, sometimes pronounced as Weil's disease or Weil's disease, is an acute infectious disease spread by infected animal urine and is found in contaminated soil and water. The infection enters through broken, grazed or cut skin, especially on the hands and feet, and sometimes through the lining of the mouth, the nose and eyes. Symptoms can include a fever, headache, chills, severe muscle pain in the calves and thighs, vomiting, diarrhea and bloodshot eyes. If you find that you have these symptoms after working, you should consult with your GP. It is possible to protect against Weil's disease, and protective measures would include that hygiene is very important. Cover any existing cuts, scratches and abrasions with a waterproof dressing. Wear protective clothing, especially gloves when handling soil, vegetation, animal feeds, tools or equipment that may be contaminated. Avoid touching the mouth and the nose, and food should not be consumed in the work area. Lyme disease. Lyme disease is a bacterial infection that's spread to humans by infected ticks. Ticks are small, spider-shaped creatures that feed on the blood of mammals, including humans. They can be present in mice, voles, blackbirds, pheasants and deer are common in the Phoenix Park. The most common symptom of Lyme's disease is a red skin rash that looks similar to the bullseye of a darts board. However, if Lyme's disease is left untreated, further symptoms can follow, including a high temperature, muscle pain, joint pain and swelling, and neurological symptoms such as temporary paralysis of the facial muscles. You should check your body for ticks at the end of each day, and if in doubt, you should consult with first aid or with your GP. Appropriate behaviour at work. Current health and safety legislation gives us all a responsibility to work safely, not to put each other at risk, and to treat each other with respect. Please act responsibly towards your fellow workers. Unwanted conduct towards any persons will not be tolerated, and this includes bullying and aggressive behaviour, the use of bad or aggressive language, and actions that reinforce inappropriate, demeaning or discriminatory attitudes. Assumptions may not be made about persons based on gender, civil status, family status, sexual orientation, age, disability, race, religious belief, or membership of the travelling community. Drugs and alcohol at work. Any person caught in the possession or under the influence of drugs or alcohol will be removed from the site. If you are on drugs for any medical reason, please inform your supervisor. The Phoenix Park is an important amenity, and we must ensure that we do no lasting damage while working here. Please be aware of the plants and wildlife in your work areas and consider how your actions impact them. Do not store any materials under trees so that we do not put them at risk. It is not permitted to add fuel to machines on the grasslands without a proper risk assessment and plan of mitigation against spills. Similarly, it's not permitted to store fuels anywhere other than on the tar macadam areas. Please be very careful when driving on the grass not to cause rutting and damage to the grass areas. And be aware of the public. Be polite and courteous at all times. Weather. A daily weather report will be available at the Site Safety Office. Wet weather during build or break may result in restrictions or schedule changes. The site manager reserves the right to restrict or prohibit vehicles from any areas in the site in the event of inclement weather conditions. Sun protection. The main cause of skin cancer is ultraviolet light from the sun. Skin cancer is the most common form of human cancer. Unfortunately, the annual rates of both melanoma and non-melanoma skin cancers are increasing steadily in Ireland. Most skin cancers are entirely avoidable. You should limit your exposure when the UV index is high, 3 or above. The Sun Smart Code. 1. Seek some shade where possible. 2. Wear long-sleeved t-shirts and trousers and suitable head protection. 3. Wear sunglasses. 4. Use a high factor, minimum factor 30, sunscreen and reapply this during the day. And 5. Know the UV index. Reporting. Please report any on-site accidents, dangerous occurrences or near misses to your supervisor. These should then be reported to the Site Safety Office. It is for your benefit as well as for others. In the case of any accident, you will need to make an entry in the accident book, which will be in the Site Safety Office. If you require time off work due to any injury, you must inform your supervisor. Thank you for completing this site induction. Contractors, please note that it is the responsibility of all contractors to ensure that each member of their team has completed and understood this induction before engaging in any works on site. Please also list competencies and tickets held and by whom. Scan and submit these in JPEG or PDF format to visionefa@gmail.com. If you're in any doubt about any aspect of site safety, please ask the Site Safety Office. Thank you.